1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10. Okay. Hello, internet world. Whoa, what's that shining thing? Oh, that's the heater. Okay, yeah, there's a heater here because it's cold. So, hello, internet world. This is Norma Joe. I'm here at my buddy's place, dog sitting, and, I'm too tired to do any more sewing, work on some of my little haunted dolls. So I decided to do a couple of episodes of Carly Saturn. See how far I can get in this shit. Alright, so let's go. Hopefully the dogs don't completely knock over my setup. Come on, boy, be good. Alright. Carly, come back. We love you. No time for the elevators. Carly passed them by just as a cleaning boy with a full cart stepped from the open elevator doors and straight into his path. Look out! Carly smacked dead hard on into the edge of the cart and spun it clean around 90 degrees. That's nice. Those carts are fucking heavy too. I was a cleaner in a hotel, and those carts are heavy as fuck, and you're expected to just run around with them all day, and they're unruly, and the expectations are completely ridiculous. Anyway, blah blah. The cleaner stumbled. Carly kept running, huffing, heaving breath. He had to. He couldn't stop. No way. No time or chance for the elevator, so he bolted up the stairs, taking them 2 and 3 at a time, his short legs laboring heavy overtime and the sweat streaking his little body. Up and up and up. He had to keep going. There was no other way out, and all the footsteps and shouts from behind were gaining on him, inch by inch, meter by meter. Huffing and panting hard, he scrambled to climb the last few steps, scrabbling and scratching with everything he had. And he was up. He was up to the next level. He had conquered the vertical climb. What is this, Rocky? Yet it wasn't over yet. It was far from over, only having just begun, really. Carly fumbled and struggled down the hall. The spit and snot dripped from his smeared face. I hate that when you're, like, running and your nose starts fucking watering and shit, and it's just, like, sometimes you don't even want to bother rubbing your face that much. Like, it's just fine. Just let it fucking run down my face. What do I care, you know? Where was I? He looked left and right and dared to peer behind. But he was in luck. All his pursuers were out of his range of sight, probably still finishing up the stairs. If only he could get to the end of this hall. If he could just push it that much more, he could round the corner and they wouldn't be able to tell where he'd gone. Quickly he made his choice, left, and took the corner in one last burst of rapid dash. But almost all too soon, he ground his fast feet to a hurried stop, seeing the figure that stood in front of him. He squinted, puzzled. Siva? How'd you make it up here before me? Siva gave no answer, but stared at Carly eerily. Oh, I don't think that's Siva. His eyes appeared dead and vacant and unblinking, all black where they should have had the soft brown iris and white pool it sat in. But this dark color was hard and sticky as set tar, unforgiving and unyielding. Hey, Carly stuttered out, disturbed by the sight in front of him. He took a step backwards, even, away from the usually so innocent Siva, who now seemed to be a dark and horrifying menace. All of a sudden, in a sight which Carly could scarcely believe, there was an odd shuffling of Siva's hair and shoulders, which in another moment it was clear it was not himself at all. It was a twisted and horrible animal which, as it clung to Siva's back, it rose itself up to peer over Siva's head and reveal itself to Carly, challenging him. The creature was almost mammalian in its body, lean and long, with short clawed limbs, and covered in short slimy fur. He could see the shine of the thick goo and grime which coated it. Sliding down the side of Siva's ribs was a long, coily tail, thick and powerful looking. But while the creature's body was mammal-like, its head was pure insect. Ugh. Wait, what did it say? What did the animal look like again? Okay, it just has fur and claws, that's basically it. Huge segmented eyes bulged from either side of its head. There were mandibles, hard, grinding, beak-like jaws opening into an empty cavern of mouth and smaller, sharper teeth. Oh lord. Spines grew along the dark creature, and flailing antennas projected from its head, constantly moving, twitching, sensing the world around it. Pointing at the ceiling, one at the wall, then behind it, then at Carly. In a sudden heartbeat, the possessed form of Siva lunged forwards, grabbing violently for Carly. Wait, so is this thing, like, attached to Siva somehow? Like, it seemed like it was on his back. Maybe there's, like, a bunch of tentacles going into him from the creature. Like, Dr. Octopus or whatever. Snatching his wrist and snatching his hair tightly, yanking, pulling. Ugh. Hey! Just from the very corner of Carly's distracted senses, he could hear that familiar voice. A voice he wasn't sure whether to cling to with gratitude or fear, most of all, in this moment of dire panic. Hey! It was Sherry. Instantly the lights all cut out, dead, and threw them violently all into darkness. That same darkness from the hotel room, that same darkness from the kitchen. Carly heard the subtle... Oh yeah, I forgot. They heard the tingler moving around, so I guess that's the thing, the tingler. Carly heard the subtle, ominous, echoey clicks of the jaws by his ear, and the feathery light touches of the hairy feelers on his hair and face. Ugh. Siva's grip tightened on him, deadly tense, and threw his weight onto Carly, wrestling him to the ground. Louder came the menacing clicks, the fervent wisps of the feelers poking him out, tasting him, the slippery weight of the long tail slithering around his neck. This reminds me of that horror movie, I think it's that thing with the brains, with the tails, but they're actually aliens, and they, like, infest people or whatever. They, like, attach themselves to those people and suck out their brain or something, and then they make them act like assholes or something. Carly bucked hard in a sudden spasm, hurling his heel into Siva's belly with a hard huh of breath. With his free hand, he lashed out and sunk every sharp fingernail into the slimy tail. How sharp are his nails? Does he play guitar? 'Cause, you know, if you play guitar, you usually have long nails on your string hand and short nails on the one that presses down the strings. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, there was this really hot guy in college in my freshman year I wanted to date, but I didn't. And then some girl who was on my floor dated him, or knew somebody who dated him, and I was jealous. But he showed me that. He's like, yeah, I got long nails on this hand and short nails on the other hand for guitar. Anyway, where was I? He bit down, digging in his teeth. Oh, he's biting the alien, that's bad. With the taste of acid and cold reptilian hide. Carly flailed under Siva and the creature's weight. He bit again, harder, more. He's lucky it's not like the alien from Aliens, because then that would burn your mouth. Oil was running over his lips and down his cheek and chin, dropping onto his chest and dress, tasting like tar and rotten stench. Ugh. Blood was dribbling across the skin of his wrist, where Siva had him. He kicked again, he flailed and twisted and scratched. He dug just as much into Siva as he did the creature in this darkness. And then finally, all of a sudden, with his free hand, he found it, a sliver, an opening, a joint where the bulb of the head met the body of the beast. Carly swung his legs around Siva's waist, throwing all his strength into shoving against him, trying to flip Siva over and allow himself the high spot. But he couldn't. It was impossible. He didn't have the strength. He only exhausted himself. Carly dug his fingertips into the crevice of the creature's head and body, and he yanked, pulling violently. Is he trying to pull its head off? Jesus Christ. The jaws chattered. The spiny hairs of the thing enveloped over him. He yanked it down as hard as he could, and bringing his head up just a little bit that he could, he drove his teeth into the very edge of the creature's head. Isn't that hard? Doesn't it have like an exoskeleton or something? I'm just gonna break his teeth. The skull was like bone, see? And hard as rock, but just underneath it he could feel it was soft and palpable, like the belly of a cockroach. And that was where Carly's teeth went. He bit down, locking his bite like a bulldog. Okay, and then with a violent shake of his head, he tore it open. He's gonna lose his teeth, man. The soft, wet innards spilled out freely like stew from a pot, like water out of a balloon. Ew. All over Carly's face. That's real nice. And chest it splattered, and instantly Siva's grip let loose. The creature recoiled, spines scratching recklessly, and antennas going wild. It shook and shuddered, and twisted and rolled, and more of the innards spilled into Carly's sour face, as he struggled to upright himself. But the weight on him was still too great. He was pinned under a dead fucking alien. That's real nice. Carly blinked his eyes open. They came open quickly. No glue, no crust to seal them shut, not even the heavy weight of sleep. So he was dreaming, I guess. Quickly he sat, or was he? Quickly he sat up in bed. Head rush. He steeled himself against it and let his eyes reclose for a moment to recenter himself. The room was dark, but when he reopened his eyes a second time, he could see there was some light. A little creeping in from the hallway under the door and some through the window outside. It was comforting. It was warm. Jean's sleeping body lay snoring beside him in the dark. He felt his face with one hand. He felt his cheeks and chin with his little calloused palm. No slime, no guts or blood. His smooth little face was clean as a whistle. He pawed cautiously at his clothes, a t-shirt and boxer shorts. No dress. I'm sure it really did happen and they're just like, you know, manipulating him or whatever. Because I can't imagine that was all fake. That would just be like, what's the point? From just outside, he could hear Paul and Sherry speaking nonchalantly, which is a word I love to use but I could never spell, to each other, like always. Maybe he had somehow imagined it all, maybe he had dreamed it, but there was no telltale feeling of separation between this reality and the next, the way that waking from a dream signaled. When he woke from a dream, he felt he was pulled out of the orbit of something, and in an instant he'd gone from being a part of it to being a million miles away. Yeah, that's how it feels. But this wasn't like that. It felt fresh and real. Only the odd sensation of lost time through him. Carly almost carelessly touched his hand to his wrist, and even with the lights all off, he could feel them. It was there, the deep scabs, too long, running down his arm to be human scratches. He was reminded of the spines on the legs and the body of the creature and the sharp beak snapping. No, it was no dream. A quick and sudden movement out the window grabbed his attention. Carly sat up erect and his hairs stood with him. What was it? As silent but as briskly as he could, he swung his legs out of the bed and touched his feet to the floor. He crossed swiftly to the window and parted the blinds with his fingers, peering out. There was no mistaking it. There, hovering in the sky, was a bright, white and shining disc, floating, hovering, rotating, and humming. Now he's seeing a UFO. Is that the UFO the alien came out of? It had great shining eyes and wheels inside wheels. Oh, that's a reference to Ezekiel in the Bible. Or was it Ezekiel, or is it, I think it's Ezekiel. Ezekiel is the guy who saw the UFOs, right, in the Bible. And then, and it gives like this weird description that's just like, yeah, it's like complicated, and every like picture that has tried to replicate it, like, it does something a little different because it's just like weird and bizarre. You know what? I remember I heard something about the Whore of Babylon, and I wanted to know what the Whore of Babylon was, so I looked up that part of Revelations, and you know, it's all very poetic written and stuff, but I'm just like, the image I got was that it was something about she was sitting up there, she was sitting on like basically like a throne, but the throne was like made of like dicks, and all the dicks were like going into her, I guess, and then like blood was all over him, she was bleeding, and then like all these like really powerful like, you know, rulers of the world, like the fucking Illuminati masters were like all around her and stuff. That's what I remember. I might be wrong, but that's the image I remember, which, you know, makes total sense. Where was I? It turned, and then it was gone, entirely gone. Carly blinked, transfixed for a few moments. Then he pulled back, very slowly, cautiously. I feel like there's a hair on my nose that I can't find, which is really annoying. He pulled back very slowly, cautiously. Felt the scabs on his wrist again. Let go of the window, turned back towards the bed, and just let it be. Yeah, he's just like, alright, I've seen enough weird shit tonight, just like, fuck it. Let it, it's weird, whatever. For a few minutes he stood still and stared at the door. Morning light was just barely beginning to break outside in the sky behind him, spreading just the faintest hint of light blue across the black heavens. Carly stood still. He considered creeping out of the room and going away to join Siva again. But all in all, he didn't want to deal with Paul and Sherry. Not tonight. He took a step forwards and slowly crept back to bed. Come on, let me turn the page. Alright. Episode 2 is called Dead Town. A long breath of marijuana smoke blown into his face woke Carly. That's nice. He jerked awake, coughing, and instantly there were 2 hands behind his back, one on each side, holding him up. One belonging to Jean, the other belonging to the purple-eyed Peacher. Not Preacher, Peacher. Peacher was a lean, pale man with a wig of choppy red ginger hair and on over his black crew cut and that joint between his so skinny lips. And his violet eyes were always lit up, always watching. How are you feeling this morning? He spilled a little bit of ash on Carly. He spoke matter-of-factly, too. No friendly fluff whatsoever in his voice. Fucking overprotective-ass Jean isn't minding all this disrespect right here, I guess. Carly grumbled and turned his head away from them. He shuffled on his hands, wanting to lift one of them and move some of the hair away from his eyes, but not able to at the risk of his balance. Jesus. I want to go back to sleep. No more sleep, Peacher countered sternly. This like control play again. First you talk to us, then you practice. You can't go sleeping the whole day away. Man, they're so controlling for a rock and roll band. I guess it's because they're famous and shit. A lot of money is riding on it. Carly groaned in quiet irritation. With his free hand, Peacher lifted a glass of whiskey and took a few hefty gulps. Oh lord. Smoking and drinking in the morning. Hey, I used to do that type of shit. Then put the fiery, bitter liquid up against Carly's lips and tilted it down. So, okay, so he's not allowed to go back to sleep, and he's not allowed to fucking do other shit, but they're like, here, have a drink right now. Blech! Carly jerked his head away from the glass and sputtered and coughed out the whiskey all over his bunk. God, what's wrong with you? You know, it wouldn't be such a bad thing if you took up drinking, he said back. Might wake you up in the morning. That makes no sense. If anything, you'd just be hungover and he'd be just as tired or more. So, I don't know what this... But this asshole clearly doesn't know what he's talking about, so whatever. He took another swig. "What time is it anyway?" "It's 10, already," Peacher said the last word with distasteful emphasis. Alright, 20 minutes. I think I can get the rest of it done in one more episode, so let's do it.